Okay, well, it's my great pleasure to be here with Des White. He was a Kiwi from 1950 right through till 1956, played 21 games for the Kiwis. A very warm welcome, Des. It's great to have you here on New Zealand Rugby League Museum TV. I'm going to start, if I can, Des, and just ask you what you remember about your very first game of rugby league and where it started. Do you remember back that far? Ponsonby, the mighty Ponsonby players.
That's right, yes. And I lived in Ponsonby when I was a young fella. I used to go to Bayfield School, and the result was that my uncle was involved with the Ponsonby. He was the chairman of the Ponsonby Rugby League.
Yes.
So therefore I was enticed to go, and we used to train at Victoria Park.
Yep.
And I became one of two little forwards to go in the scrum.
Yep.
It was 7-a-side. From there I went to halfback, first flight, wing, and finally the coach came along and said, look, there's only one place left, I'll try at fullback. And if you're not very good at fullback, well, I'll be quite honest and say, look, you better go home now and tell your mum that I'm sorry, there's no place for you in the team.
Yeah.
And I stayed there forever.
So how old were you when you played the game for the first time? You remember how old?
8.
You were 8 years of age, and that was for Ponsonby?
Yes.
That was for
yes.
Ponsonby.
Yeah.
What about the influences, Des? What about, was there an individual, your dad, a coach?
No, my dad went to war. No, he died when I was 7 years old. No,
okay.
But Bob Short, who was the chairman of the Ponsonby Rugby League, was really the main person who talked me into turning over and playing rugby league.
Yep, yep. And what was he? Was he a coach or?
No, just chairman of the Ponsonby
He was
Rugby League.
just chairman. Yeah.
That's all.
And so, what about coaches then in those early years?
Frank De Grosso, who was a New Zealand international. Frank, he coached us when we got up in the 3rd grade, and we won the 3rd grade championship with Frank. He was particularly keen, and I had started to show a little bit of promise, not a great promise, but had shown. But I like league better than I like rugby.
Yep.
And I got into a problem at school. I went to Seddon Technical College, and they wanted me to play rugby, and I said no, so I wouldn't play rugby for the school. And things weren't too good with some of the teachers there, and they found out that I was a person who preferred league to rugby.
Yep. Yep.
And eventually, of course, I left Seddon Tech, not with good memories.
Yeah. So did you play rugby at all? Did you?
Yes, I played rugby for the Bayfield School I went to. Yeah. Yes, in Herne Bay there. Then I went and played only for secondary school. That's all. I played rugby on a Tuesday.
Yep.
I didn't play for Seddon Tech at all in the first 15.
Well, in Auckland Rugby League then, was it as strong as it is today? The strength of the province?
Different game altogether then.
Yes.
Because you had today you've got the tackle rule.
Yep.
So in those days there's no tackle rule.
Yeah.
And really, if you were a very good team, if you held the ball for 10 minutes, you'd score.
Yep.
If you couldn't score within 10 minutes of constant possession,
yep.
hopeless. And we New Zealanders, we were not as good as the English, who were quite exceptional. England was the #1 club side,
yep.
followed by France, Australia, and New Zealand. We could only hold it for about 4 or 5 minutes possession.
Yeah.
But of course, as you know, as the no tackle rule was involved, stiff arm was very prevalent. And the only way you can get a guy to drop the ball is to give him a stiff arm coat hanger, as they used to call them in those days.
What about the rest of the country, provincial wise? What was the strength like around the rest of the country?
Auckland was strong, and the South Island was very strong.
Yep. West
very
Coast.
Strong, yes, Canterbury and West Coast, particularly with the West Coast when they had Bill McLennan, Francie Mulcair. They were very, very strong, the coasters, and to go down the coast, and they were very adamant league followers down there.
Yep.
They were tough to beat.
Yep. 21 games for the Kiwis, 21 games. The first time that you put on that black and white jersey, do you remember that?
You got me there, the very first time. Oh. No, I can't remember who it was, no.
And every time you pulled on that jersey,
yes, it was a thrill.
Yeah.
Yes, a thrill, yes. Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah, and it was different, the league, what it is today, totally different. Those days, no. As I say, you had to get possession, you had to hold possession, and a try was only 3, penalty was only 2, so 5 points was it, you know.
Yeah. Is there a changing room, a Kiwi changing room, that you've still got envisaged in your mind where you can see those players sitting in that changing room preparing for a test, and the names that spring to mind that you enjoyed playing in that Kiwi
No,
team?
except the only thing I used to see was a lot of guys used to go to the toilet before they went out and played the test match. And they never had anyone to wind you up, but they would individually talk to you, and they'd go around. It would be quite different today, and it was vital that we held possession.
Yes.
Because that was the name of the game, which it still is today too, but then
Absolutely.
there's no tackle rule.
Yeah.
So today when you've got 5 tackles, possession is gone.
Yeah. You became one of the country's best ever kickers, without a doubt. Were you always a kicker, or did you get pushed into it, or were you something that you wanted to do?
When I was a young kid, Bob Scott was the All Black, and he
Yes,
used to
yes.
played for Ponsonby Rugby League also, and he used to kick down at Victoria Park, and
Yeah.
that's where we trained. And I went down there, and he was, a very good kicker. And so I used to kick, and I did practice a lot. In the end, when I went and played for New Zealand, Bill Sampson was my roommate.
Yes.
And when we were over in England on these long tours, we used to go down to the training ground together at Ilkley, and we would practice. We'd have 40 kicks each.
Yep.
And nobody realised that Bill Sampson would be kicking about 30 and I would be kicking about 25. That's how accurate Bill was. And because he was a second stringer and wasn't in the test team, he never got the opportunity until late in his life did he start showing as a goal kicker. And they didn't realise how good Bill Sampson was.
Mm-hmm. So your style, you adopted Bob Scott's style of kicking?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
So that was just the toe hack or the follow through?
Two ways I used to have there, because the balls were, well, I don't know, they were slightly different than what they are today, etc.
Leather back then, weren't they?
Yeah, and on a heavy day when it's wet, etc., you'd have to have a torpedo.
Yes.
And
Torpedo,
then
yes.
I changed to up and down.
Yes, yeah. And you preferred up and down?
No, I was a bit flexible, but it depended on the ground, because Carlo Park was always wet, muddy,
Yes.
slushy, etc. And if you kick from the sideline, well then you've got to have a torpedo kick.
Right. You make me, you remind me of something there, Des. 1951 versus France, try scored in the corner, Des White up to kick the conversion to win the game, and you nail it.
Well, the oddity was Pugobert, who is an exceptional player for the French fullback, threw me the ball and gabbled something in French to me as though, well, you won't be able to kick this. And we needed the conversion to win the test match.
Yeah.
And the whole park was in an uproar because two guys got ordered off. We were down to a 11-man team.
Yep.
And the Frenchmen also had big arguments regarding fights. And as I say, if you really got hit and hit hard enough, etc., and they made sure you couldn't come back, there was no replacement.
Yep.
Consequently, here we were two, a New Zealand and French team, really battling it out, and France had cleaned up Australia. So when I got this chance to kick, and Pugobert, the French fullback, threw me the ball, gabbled something in French. I think he must have said, well, you got no show kicking this.
Yeah.
And I walked back, and I actually stood against the picket fence.
Yes, yes.
And then I came in, and it flew beautifully.
Yeah.
It was sweet and rosy.
Yeah.
And I got...
and you won the test match, 16-15?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right, yes. Oh, they were going to do all sorts of things for me, etc. But the oddity was it only lasted, that claim to fame, for about 2 days. On Monday, Auckland played the French, and I missed 3 shots at goal.
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah.
And so we got beaten, and I could have won the game for Auckland. And I went up to the Parnell pub. Anyhow, a couple of Maoris were standing there, and one guy said, "You tell me that fella White could kick." He couldn't kick for, and he said a nice word. And the old father-in-law said, "There you are, you're down to earth. You were a hero 48 hours ago, you're not now."
Yeah, great memories.
Right.
You gave coaching a go. Of course, you coached Auckland and you
Yes.
coached New
New
Zealand.
Zealand, yes, that's right.
Did you enjoy that?
No, not really. Yes, I did enjoy coaching Auckland, but New Zealand, we had 2 other selectors, and they were not happy, particularly over a choice of a player, and I won't name the player. But anyhow, the team was going to Australia, and they wanted certain representations from areas of New Zealand, and there wasn't enough certain players from one particular part of New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I said, no. I said, he's had 1 tour of Australia and he was a failure.
Yeah.
He played up on the tour. I said, I wouldn't have him. And the other 2 selectors said, you've got to take him. I said, oh, it's a waste of time now. I said, going over there in a short, only 6-week tour of Australia. I said, I wouldn't select them. I'd pick someone else and give them a chance to develop. They said, no, you're not part of the group. And at the end of that particular season, the word came out was I was going to get dropped as a New Zealand selector and coach. And I thought, wow. The oddity was Ray Cody came along and said, why don't you try broadcasting? And I said, broadcast? I thought, whatever, funniest idea, what are you talking about? He said, well, come on, come up and have a go. I said, oh, no, good. And look at the result as I finished up broadcasting, and I won an award for outstanding broadcasting.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you about that, Des, and you've just answered how it came about. But your dulcet
Murray
tones.
King. Yeah, Murray King was the person, and he was going into racing.
Yes.
He was doing a racing commentator, and he wanted to be like that, and they were looking for someone to broadcast league, and Ray Cody was the actual broadcaster, and he wanted a backup of Ray, and he came along and asked me, and I said, "You're crazy."
Yeah. Yeah, well, and you did it for a number of years, and you did it.
Yeah,
so
I won an award actually for broadcasting. However,
can I ask you, when you finished playing the game, was there any particular reason why you stopped playing the very last game that you played?
Yes, I got done over actually by Doug Greenall. I was the Auckland captain playing against Great Britain, and he was notorious for very stiff arm, drop kick, tackles, etc. And no replacement rule played a major role. Well, anyhow, I called the shot. I thought we were going to beat England. I was quite happy to call the shots, and Lenny Eriksson unloaded the ball, and it was a high pass he sent to me, and above my head was old Doug Greenall, and he had drop kicked me, so he split my spleen in half. And in those days, they didn't put you on a stretcher; they just dragged you off the paddock. Anyhow, I finished up. I was in hospital for quite a while, about 4 or 5 weeks, and yeah, pretty close to really passing out, dying, and I was off work for 5 months.
Wow.
So that was the end of my career, I thought. And I said, no, I didn't want to finish, so I came back. But because my scar tissues were so bad in the stomach there, when I went back to Australia in '56, I was tearing them.
Yes.
And I couldn't put my boots on. And they started to find out that something was wrong with me. And I'd asked someone else to do up my boots because I couldn't get down. I had these torn scar tissues and stitches. So
things have changed, haven't they? Speaking of changes, and I look back over the years that I've been involved with the changes in the game, and all your wonderful years involved, the changes that have happened, has it been for the better or for the worse?
Oh, better.
Yeah.
Better.
What do
well,
you think?
in my day, there wasn't a tackle rule.
Yes.
So that made a big difference. You had to. The other team had an opportunity.
Yes.
In our day, a hooker had to be number one.
Yep.
You had to have a classy hooker to get the ball, and you'd always get the ball and you'd stay with it. And you could stay with it for 7 or 8 minutes, and you'd usually score a try.
Yep.
Today, after 5 tackles, you've got to give away the ball, and the opposition has a chance to attack. So it has definitely improved.
Yeah.
Much. And they've cut out the stiff arm. Stiff arm was notorious.
Yes.
And you could hang one there, winger flying down the sideline, and out goes all the arm, and you collected him, and that's the end of him.
What about the fitness, Des? Do you think the fitness is a lot better these days, and the training techniques that you guys had compared to today?
No, I don't think so. No. We certainly used to do a terrific amount of sprinting, and because you could hold the ball for so long. A good practice session, there was about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and we used to sprint one end of the field to the other, and you do that 4 times, 5 times, that's pretty solid, real sprinting.
Yep.
So I think the fitness in my day was right up to it.
When you think back on the tours that you did, Des, and how long you were away for, it wasn't just a month, it was 2 months, 3 months tours, or even 4.
Yeah.
So that must have been a huge challenge, not just for the players, but for the administration and the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, well, you went to England, you travelled by boat, so that was 31 days, I suppose, on a boat, and which you could hardly train, or you could run up and down the deck, I suppose. But then you'd start playing, and you'd have on a tour. I went on 51. It was a 40-match tour, and so we won 33 and lost 7.
Wow.
And you get the ones that go on a holiday. You always pick out, when you've got 26 players there, I suppose you've got about 18 genuine footballers.
Yeah, there is.
The other 8 are having a bit of a ball, and And so when you're away from home that long, and the girls are very attractive in England, you find out the training is a bore, and I don't want to play football because they are really getting hit.
Yeah.
And they have to. The only way you can get rid of the ball was to hit a guy hard enough, either with a stiff arm, round about the neck, usually from the neck up to the head. And that's the only way they drop the ball, so you gain possession. So it was, many broken jaws, which I've had a couple, and spleens and God knows what.
What about some little stories off the field that you can share with us? Is there anything that happened on tour that you've never repeated before?
Well, quite a few blokes finished up marrying the people that they met. They always used to have a very nice banquet. You'd have if you say you went to Australia and you're playing Queensland, they'd have a big banquet for you that night, and lots of very attractive girls. And so in your 20s, you're fit. These girls were attractive. Quite a few did finish up marrying. Then you'd find out you go to England. In fact, I went as a broadcaster to England, and I couldn't believe it. I said to this particular player, I said, look, I said, tell this girl that you're married back in New Zealand. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, come on, tell her you're married back in England, back in New Zealand. And he said, oh, she's in love with me. And the end result was that this girl went to New Zealand. This boy came from Canterbury, and her parents came out as well. He divorced his wife and he remarried her, and it was such a shock to the Canterbury Rugby League that this guy ended up going and playing the rest of his career in Australia, in Sydney.
Wow.
So those things can happen on tour,
they can help,
particularly when you're away for 5 months or you're on a boat for 30 days, which is boring. And when you come home, it's totally different. There's a lot of attractive girls, and we came home on the boat that had all the war brides. And there's quite a lot of things happening on the boat that shouldn't be told.
When you think back on that wonderful career, Des, is there any player in your mind that just stood out above the rest that you'd just do anything for?
Captain Maury Robinson was the hardest and toughest captain I played under. Really, he was. I say that because I once didn't want to have the shot at goal, and I said kick it. I said it's too far out and the ball's too heavy. He said, you don't argue with me. I said kick it and kick it, or else you won't play for New Zealand again. And this is on the paddock. And
did you get it? Did you get
fortunately, it fell over the goalpost.
There you go. So Maury was right.
But he was there. He was the toughest captain I ever struck.
Yeah. What about opponents? Who did you fear as an individual? Was there any particular player that you thought, we're up against that bastard again? Do you remember anybody like that? Or?
Well, stiff arm was prevalent, and when you went out in a test match, you kept from the coach. First of all, the goal kicker was the first target.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Then you had the playmaker, the one that could really break up the defence, except someone either half or the standoff. Those are the two factors. And also the goal kicker was. The goal kicker was first, then either halfback or first five.
Yep.
And that would break up the actual defensive factors. And that was it. And you would certainly throw them, lots of throw punches,
Yeah, so you threw a few
good fights and very good. You had to be a good fighter up those. I don't know.
What about teams? Who was the team that you didn't like to face? Is there any particular team? International, national, or even club?
England. Well, France was stupid because they used boots. They used to kick you.
Yes. I think they still do.
And they were very prevalent at kicking you when you're on the ground. They just come and kick you in the head. But Britain, they were the toughest because it was Aussie weren't as good in those days.
Yeah.
So Britain was number one, and then
Yes.
came I suppose Australia, New Zealand, and France.
Yes. Yeah. So just.
But the no tackle rule was the one factor. When you got hurt.
Yes.
No replacement.
Yes.
So who'd you aim for? The halfback, the goal kicker, the other person who's very clever at breaking it up, and you throw a stiff arm, and if you got sent off, which you really did on those days, you'd break his jaw and he's gone, and
you'd stay on the field.
Yes.
Yeah. So just in closing, Des, when you look at the game today, and if you had the to change anything, administration-wise, game-wise, is there anything that you'd like to see in the game today wasn't prevalent in.
Well, they have reduced it now to just the 5-player rule, which I think is excellent. And also there's the replacement rule has come into as well.
Yes.
So there have been major improvements in the game.
Yes.
I think so. That's most important. Otherwise it's very hard to play out there with only 11 men or 12 men. Because when you go out and you have an international match, in my day you knew that certain people are going to be targeted.
Yep.
Today you've got replacements and
Yes.
you cover that.
Yep. Yep.
So there is a big improvement, I
Yep.
think, now in today than what there was.
Yep.
Plus the money's come into it. In those days, you'd be lucky. Well, when we went to England, I was on £4.10. Well, they were pounds, of course, English
Yep.
sterling, and the
Yep.
average wage was about £8.
Yep.
A working man in New Zealand, and £2.10 had to be left home for your wife or
Yes.
whatever it might be, whoever it was,
Yep.
and you were only allowed £2.
Yep.
So finances didn't come into it. You didn't look for money now.
Yeah.
Although I signed 2 contracts actually in England, and both times I got wiped, and I signed a contract in Australia, and I gave up in the end, and that was it.
What about the ludicrous money that players get today? I mean, it's
Incredible.
Some big money today.
Incredible. Yeah, I guess
just imagine having that in your day.
I would like it. Yeah, well, when you're playing, you're in your 20s, you're young,
Yep.
you're either married or you've looking for finances, you want to get a house, etc.
Yep.
And along come the big money.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
great, playing something you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And today you're getting a dim one.
Yeah. Well, Des, thank you so very, very
Oh,
much
that's
for
all right.
making yourself
Oh, I know.
available for the
This is okay.
New Zealand Rugby League Museum TV. It's been my pleasure to sit and have a chat with you, mate. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Des.
No, very good.